702.
Health and Wellness.
Right, it's 23 minutes now before 12 o'clock. Let's get straight into our health and wellness feature. And today we are discussing nervous breakdowns. How do you identify a nervous breakdown and how do you recover from one? This is something that occurs when stress and your problems become just so overwhelming for you and you find yourself struggling to cope with your daily life and responsibilities. And it's important that you know, one, how to identify the right time to actually approach a doctor, but also two, you need to know how you can recover from something like this. So we have invited Dr. Clementine Chawane, who is a psychiatrist who's joining us via Zoom, just to help us navigate this conversation, because there are a lot of people, Dr. Chawane, who really struggle with this condition. Thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Clement, and thanks for having me. Thanks. Good morning to your listeners.
I gave my simpler, more basic understanding of what a nervous breakdown is. Just simplifies for us. When we talk about a nervous breakdown, what is it? What normally happens? And how do you differentiate between that and maybe an instance where depression for someone is just at its highest?
Yeah. So nervous breakdown is more like a generic term. It's not necessarily a diagnosis that we would have in our textbook, but it's just more a general term to explain an intense emotional state that one can have, and it can cause distress so much that it affects one's ability to function, whether it's at school, if he's a student, at friends and family. So it's just a generic term to express an intense emotional distress, if I can simplify it like that.
Oh, I see. So it could be whether it's stress, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, but when it gets to that intense state, that's when it's a nervous breakdown. How does it normally manifest itself? Because there are some people who you'd see they just start crying. There are some people who, we all react differently to that moment when there's that intense feeling. So, like from your experience, what is that common way that it normally manifests itself?
So I think people should just acknowledge that it's really a build-up of emotions, and it's usually because of ignored symptoms. Like now with electronic cars, there will be warning signs on your car saying something is wrong. You need to pull over. You need to take the next off ramp so you can attend to this. And people usually ignore those warning signs. And so in my experience, what happens is that somebody would have an emotional outburst, whether it's anger or tears or a suicide attempt. Sometimes it gets to that point where it's serious, and therefore then they need to present in an emergency hospital, whether it's a panic attack. And when you interview them, you can see that it has been a buildup of emotion. So it can present in different ways for different people. And the mild changes that people would have or would experience early on is just changes in your what we call neurovegetative states, which includes your energy levels. You find that someone complains about how tired they feel. There might be changes in your sleep. Typically, is people would want to sleep all the time and then just feel tired all the time, but there are those that are agitated and restless and they're not able to have a good quality of sleep. Some people will still sleep for 8 hours, but when they check on their smart watches, they can see that, their sleeping pattern is not so great. They're not able to reach a deep sleep. And so they wake up feeling like they haven't slept. Some will say things like, I feel like my body is sleeping, but my brain is awake and processing a lot of things. I'm tossing and turning throughout the night. So those are some of the changes that people can experience earlier on. There can be changes in your sex drive. Most of the time you have a low libido and just not interested in those kind of things, or anything that will previously give you pleasure. And another neurovegetative changes is the appetite, change in appetite. Most people tend to have appetite suppression with an associated weight loss over a short period of time, where you're losing weight, but it's not intentional. And you just eat for the sake of eating. You don't take pleasure in the food anymore. And yet there are those that as well will go to a binging spree and what will usually referred to as comfort eating. So somebody just wants to stuff themselves all the time because they are feeling so much in distress. So those are the mild symptoms that people can have earlier on, just to show you that something is not okay. And that can be associated with levels of heightened anxiety. So you are more worried than other times. You are more hypervigilant. If somebody passes behind you, you feel scared all the time. Some people can have depressive symptoms where they feel sad most of the time. They struggle to console themselves, to encourage themselves. They struggle with motivation and drive. And also it can affect your concentration. And so some would say, I go to work but I'm not productive. I'm not able to do as much as I would in the past. I don't know where time goes. And also my memory is not so great. I'm very forgetful. I forget what I'm doing. I forget what I'm saying in the middle of a sentence or in the middle of a conversation sometimes. So those are the symptoms that all of us as human beings can experience. But if we don't attend to them in that state, then we have a build-up where it's more like a volcano eruption. And that's when you would have a nervous breakdown. And like I said, it could present in different ways for different people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and many of us normally ignore those signs that you say if you don't attend to them, then they can present in this reaction, this intense moment, and then we start experiencing this nervous breakdown. It's 15 minutes now before 12 o'clock. I'd like to hear from you if you want to share your experiences with us. Have you ever experienced a nervous breakdown? And have you found a way to figure out what led you to that intense feeling? You can send us a WhatsApp as well on 072-702-1702. I want you to also ask questions if you have any. Dr. Chawane will take some of your questions on. Maybe you want to talk about how once you've experienced something like that, how do you recover? Do you take some time off? Do you get checked in a psychiatric institution? What do you do? Do you approach your doctor? What questions do you have around nervous breakdowns? And really looking forward to you sharing your experiences with us. I'll start with those calls and WhatsApps after this.
702 Health and Wellness.
13 minutes before 12 o'clock. Let's go straight to your calls now on 011-883-0702. You can send WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. We are talking this morning on our health and wellness feature about nervous breakdowns. Is it something you've ever experienced? And how do you recover from something like that? We've got Tsenulo who's calling us from Duduza. Tsenulo, thank you for calling us. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to everyone that's listening. Yes, I'm listening to the topic, and I can honestly say that I've just experienced the very same thing that you guys are talking about. I was on my way to work, actually, when I felt like there's nothing else that I could do, and I was sitting in the car, and I just stopped the car. I felt like my mind was exploding, actually. And on the very same day, I was admitted in Pretoria I forgot the name of the hospital. And it was simply because of I would go 2 days without sleeping, 3 days maximum, without sleeping at all. But the funny part is, during the day, I find myself so sleepy, and I would sleep just 1 hour, and after that, my energy is revived. So it's something that I would do even at work. You can imagine, when you're at work, you need that 1 hour to sleep, and then when you come back, your energy level is up again. But the forgetfulness is there. You forget important things. You sit in a meeting and forget that you're in a meeting because your mind is now taking a trip, going somewhere. And at night when you're sleeping, your mind is so busy. You don't know what's going on with your head. Your body is tired, but your mind is so busy. So currently I am on meds, and when I was still in hospital, the medications was working. But now that I'm home, I'm finding it difficult because I do feel that I would sleep for an hour maybe at night, and then the whole entire time I'm up, or sleep for 2 hours maximum. Then the whole entire time I'm awake, I can't sleep, but I still take the medication. So I wanted to ask, is there anything more that I need to do if I'm still experiencing that?
Yeah, and what kind of medication are you taking?
I have Dopacol and I forgot other ones for sleeping at night.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me asking, Sunulo, is it something that, like, were you struggling with depression? Are there certain, what were those warning signs for you? What were you dealing with before that then ended up in that moment where you just feel like, this is a nervous breakdown?
Honestly, I think it's something that started when I was still in varsity, because I would sleep during the day, and then at night I would want to study about 6 hours at night. And I don't know if maybe it's the after effect of all of that, or maybe it's just me stressing a lot currently, or there's something in my subconscious mind that is busy that I can't pick up. I can't even diagnose myself on that one. So I'm still unsure. I did speak to the psychiatrist, and all they can say is, no, it's probably stress or it's anxiety. So they treat what they pick up at that moment. Because if I can't really tell you what I think the problem is, it's going to be difficult for you to understand what I want to say to you.
Yeah, Sunulo, thank you so much for calling us, Sunulo, into Duza, and all the best, man. Dr. Chawane?
Yeah, so, a nervous breakdown can sometimes, when you go to a psychiatrist or even a medical doctor, turn into a serious mental health diagnosis, whether it's depression or anxiety. So it's possible that there could be stresses that maybe Sunulo is also going through. And when he was in hospital, felt better because he didn't have to be responsible for the things that he has to be responsible for now, whether he's waking up and figuring out what he might gonna eat or even going to work. And so now that he's back to his decompensating again, and I think it's off thing, it's a long-term journey. And sometimes we're able to pick up the diagnosis on the first consultation, but sometimes we need more time with you to be able to figure out what's happening. So my advice is that if he's not feeling as great, he must reach out to the doctor who treated him, and maybe they can relook the medication and see what they can do to help, especially with the sleeping, because the sleeping is the most important thing. I believe that when we sleep, our body or our brain gets to reboot and heal itself. And so if you're sleep deprived, you wake up with the stress that you went to bed with, and so it becomes a ripple effect, and eventually your brain is just gonna battle dealing with everything that it has to deal with. And so having to sleep is a very important thing. And so if you're not feeling okay, don't wait until you have to pull up on the side of the road, to get assistance. Just reach out now. In the system, the doctor already knows you, and so it will be easier for them to try and help.
Dr. Chawane, the line is breaking there.
Over time.
Yeah, Dr. Chawane, the line is breaking terribly there, so we're not able to get much of what you said towards the end there. Tell you what, let me take a quick break. I'll ask the producers to just try and re-establish that line with you. If we must take you on the telephone line, maybe we should do that just as we conclude this conversation. It's 7 minutes now before 12 o'clock.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Are we doing enough to leverage our relationships with the BRICS nations to replace the kind of economic benefit we had with the United States?
In as much as the United States may be turning its back on South Africa, and ironically, South Africa has a far greater opportunity to improve its relations with the EU, BRICS, and trade, intra-African trade, to try and alleviate the situation.
Dr. Azar-Jameen.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
You wouldn't want to pay more than you need to for your cell phone bill, so why overpay for car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Jermaine, a 43-year-old man, is a real Outsurance client who saves a whopping 360 Rand a month on his 2021 Mazda 3 1.5 Dynamic. Now, that's a real deal, right? Why pay more? Switch and save today. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer FSP. T's and C's online.
A huge Powerball Plus jackpot of over 47 million rand has been won. The lucky player hit it lucky on Friday after playing through a retailer in Emandeni, KwaZulu-Natal. Play Powerball for an estimated 90 million rand jackpot this Tuesday and you could be next. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Pada, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Specsavers cares about your vision. Regular eye examinations can help detect several underlying health problems. Get tested today. Specsavers.
The 2025 Public Works and Infrastructure Summit is here under the theme Turning South Africa into a Construction Site, Growing the Economy and Creating Jobs. The inaugural summit is taking place today at the Sandton Convention Center. This show has been live from this Public Works and Infrastructure Summit as we bring you all the live updates, highlights and more. Brought to you by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure on 702.
702.
Health and wellness.
All right. Dr. Clementine Chawane, who's a psychiatrist, is back to us on the line now. Dr. Chawane, there was a question here about substances like cocaine, drugs and alcohol. For someone who experiences a nervous breakdown, should they avoid these substances if these are things that they would ordinarily take?
Yes, definitely. So those are the substances that actually causes a chemical dysregulation on your brain and can have a negative impact on your brain long term. And so when your brain is trying to reboot itself during a nervous breakdown or coming off from a nervous breakdown, doing anything that has a negative impact on your brain is actually putting water on a bucket with a hole. And so it's just not going to work. And so, yes, you should abstain from all substances, including alcohol, because it has a negative impact on your brain.
So you must try and avoid that at all costs. And then once someone experiences that, should they then consult with a psychiatrist? Do they consult with their doctor? Because some people just experience it and they think, it's just a moment, it's past. What's the best thing to do once you experience that?
I think the first thing is to consult your medical doctor. A psychiatrist might not be as readily available as you would like, and so a medical doctor would be able to at least assess the severity of the situation. And if they feel like it's beyond their scope of practice, they will be able to at least refer to a psychiatrist. But most of the time, they're able to give you something just at least to help you sleep and be able to book you off some time from work to allow you to recuperate. For those that are already seeing psychiatrists, and when they see that, they should be able to go to their psychiatrist and say, I'm experiencing breakthrough symptoms in spite of me being on medication. And they can relook the medication and sometimes relook the diagnosis to make sure that the patient is fully supported and well able to function.
Dr. Clementine Chawane, psychiatrist, thank you so much for guiding us through this conversation.